Oi, gente, estamos começando mais um episódio de No Lucro CNN. Logo de cara eu já preciso justificar para vocês que a gente não está no estúdio. É a primeira vez em todas as temporadas que o No Lucro faz uma gravação externa. A gente saiu dos estúdios da CNN na Paulista e a gente veio até aqui a Zona Sul de São Paulo, na sede da Ford, porque a gente está tendo o prazer de ser a primeira empresa de comunicação brasileira a poder gravar com o CEO global da Ford. Então a gente tem o prazer de anunciar no Lucro de hoje a presença do Jim Farley. Jim, it's a great pleasure.
Nice to be here.
To have you here in our show.
Bom dia.
Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, as we say here in Brazil. You was born in Argentina.
Yes,
you were
BA.
just telling me.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, I lived there for first almost 10 years of my life. My father started Citibank in Latin America. He lived in BA for 20 years, so my sisters were all born there too. So anyways, there's a lot of football rivalry we could talk about.
A little bit. I don't know if it's the best time to talk about soccer here in Brazil. You know? We can talk about it just a little bit if you want. But first of all, every time we start a conversation with entrepreneurship or a celebrity or everyone that sits in the chair beside me, I like to ask this person to present himself. So it's the same thing I'm gonna make to you.
Okay.
So who are you? Every time you wake up and look to the mirror, what do you see? Who is the Jim Farley?
I'm a pretty simple guy. I'm a car person.
Always.
My
Always
nickname as a kid was Jimmy Car.
Really?
I was at a Mustang, but cars have been the most important thing in my life other than my family. I worked for Phil Hill, our first American Formula One champion, put myself through graduate school as an upholstery man. I've had every job in the car business. I've worked for multiple car companies, but my grandfather was an hourly employee from Ford. So the second thing I would say is I'm from a simple background.
Great.
He was a factory worker, and we were very close. And unfortunately, he died before I came back to Ford. Let's say that when I told him that I was going to Toyota after graduate school, he said, okay, but you're not so welcome in my house.
Really?
I came from a Detroit family.
Oh.
And my father was a naval officer in World War II. I went to Argentina. So going to Toyota was a bit of a black sheep moment. Really? But coming back to Ford 15 years ago was something that I'm very proud of, and I'm basically a grandkid of a factory worker. That's who I am.
So you were a great Mustang fan, right?
Yes, I am my whole life. Yes.
And now,
yes.
We're in front of the Mustangs, the production of the Mustangs.
Yeah,
right?
My first new car was a Mustang. I drove across the country to go to UCLA in my GT Mustang. My son has a Fox body Mustang. We work on it together.
Oh, amazing.
Mustangs are kind of for us and our family, a symbol of freedom, of road trips across the United States. I drove across the country when I was 15, before I had my driver's license in my Mustang. It was a 1965 Mustang. I had no driver's license, no insurance, and I drove across the country. My parents were pretty surprised when I showed up in Michigan. What are you doing here? You're supposed to fly here.
Kids don't do that.
Don't do that.
Nowadays.
Don't do that. It's a bad idea.
Please.
But that was the moment I went from being a boy to a man in my Mustang. Kissed my first girlfriend in a Mustang.
Really?
Yeah.
Great memories, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now it's 2025, and you were the CEO of Ford.
Yes.
Globally. So how an executive like yourself today look to the industry, to the car industry, because it's probably one of the industries that is facing the biggest changes, on daily basis. Everything is going so fast and nobody knows exactly what's going to happen in the future for the next 10 years probably, right? We are gonna probably look just electric cars on the streets or don't, or hybrid cars. Most part of the time we have a company that says, okay, now we're gonna have just electric cars. Oh, no, we're gonna wait for 10 more years.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
So in your opinion, what's gonna happen for the next 10 years and how's the industry nowadays?
Well, it's for sure the most important part of our company's history, other than the founding. This is the most exciting moment in the car industry.
I agree.
I've waited my whole life for this moment. We have software-defined vehicles for the first time. Our electric architectures, we can have a vehicle can be a digital device in your life.
Like a computer, right?
Yes, it is exactly what it is.
Exactly.
It takes pictures. it also has the social, but also the geographic risk of an intelligent machine that rolls. So the politics of, even aside from electrification and rare earths, the politics of cars is about to change completely because it's software defined. We also have this journey on lower CO2, which we thought was either a hybrid or an all electric. We now see all these individual partial electrification solutions. And then of course, it's still an emotional product. I like to say we don't sell shampoo. We sell an incredibly emotional product. And to me, all those things come together at this moment in time. And my job is to allocate capital, to make the right choices, talent and capital, to reinvent the company.
And it's not easy to do, right?
No,
So it's very complicated.
That's okay.
So in your opinion, where Ford need to go, or the whole industry, I mean, right? So we need to go definitely right now for the electric future?
Yes.
Or we have to wait a little bit more?
Well, I think the answer for Ford is different. We're not like the other car companies. We've been around for 125 years. In the US, we're the only car company that didn't go bankrupt. We're a different company. And I believe Ford's at its best when we do what we do naturally well. So we do trucks and commercial, and we do emotional products. Those are the two core elements of our strategy. And of course, we can wrap software and services around that, but that is the basics of our business. We believe we've always taken a measured approach to electrification. We can no longer be an ICE-only company. We've been number 2 in EVs in the US to Tesla for 2.5 years. And the Chinese are the dominant brands, not Tesla, of the EV world. And so places like here, like our trucks, we have to partially electrify, and we have to have competitive costs with the Chinese, who in my lifetime will be the most important competitors in our industry. I also believe that we have to invest in electrical architectures where we can create that software-defined experience. It would be a lot cheaper to not do that. There are a lot of customers who don't want a software-defined vehicle. But if we don't move forward on electrification and software, we will find ourselves behind, and it's existential. Like we won't exist in 10 years if we don't invest in both. And that's really where we're going as a company. The subtlety of making the right bet on electrification, the right amount of investment in technology, and the right appeal on the brand direction and the execution of the product is really the difference between success and failure.
Great. When you talk about these companies, especially the Chinese companies, you have very honest opinions about them.
I do.
Right?
I do.
You talk all the time. I heard a lot of interviews that you telling things exactly the same you just told me right now. We are behind.
Yes.
So how important you think is to say that, to everyone listen in order to look to other competitors in the market? And most part of them are just, oh no, we are the best, we are amazing. And you say, no, we are behind. You have to face that and work to have better, systems, better technology. So who are leading exactly this championship about electrification and technology in your opinion nowadays?
Well, I think there are global brands now emerging from China that were regional only, that are indigenous to China, the Geelys, the Great Walls, the Cherries, and of course BYD. I kind of think of talking about transitions and being transparent about it the same as the story of our Latin America experience at Ford. Many years ago, we thought we'd JV the business with Volkswagen. We found out that didn't work. We tried to do it ourselves, and for a variety of reasons, it didn't work. So, 4 or 5 years ago, we got real with our situation here, especially in Brazil. And we were all very proud of the business, but we restructured. It was so painful. It was one of the most difficult decisions I've made in my business career. But now I look at my team and we're thriving. We're growing again, we're profitable, and we can't take any of that for granted. I think the same thing can be said about the company, about being honest around where we really are as a company. No one is a bigger cheerleader than Ford, than me. On the same token, you can't beat your competitors if you don't respect them. And I believe that these companies have been working in BYD's case for 20 years on all electric cars. And they are smart, and they are focused, and they are global, and they want our business. And the only way to face them is to do it our own way, but to be realistic about the exciting journey we have to beat them. And to do that, you have to respect them. And I do.
All the time, right?
Yes.
Ford has something that they don't, definitely.
Yes.
Which is tradition.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You're a 125-year-old company,
Yes.
right? You created the assembly line, which is used even nowadays, right?
Yes.
So you have a huge challenge right in front of you to keep this company technological, to
Yep.
keep this company,
Yes.
ahead when you talk
Yes.
about the innovation.
Yes.
How do you do that?
Wow, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I think the way we do it is the way we always have done it when we were courageous. When we launched the first V8 in our industry, we had that team quit the company, go to Greenfield Village, and for a year, in secret, they developed about 20 or 30 different V8s until we found the one that we wanted. And they had to quit the company to do it. I think the only way for us to compete with BYD in our home market, for example, in the US, is we created a Skunk Works group in California, some Formula One and Tesla people. My badge didn't work in the building. We gave them all the rights. They used all the most modern design software. They had no prejudice. And the reason why I knew that was the right thing to do is when we took apart the Model Y, Model 3 when it first came out, and the Mach-E, our most successful electric, and Tesla's, their wiring loom was 1.6 kilometers shorter and 70 pounds lighter and $200 battery, lower cost battery just to haul around the wiring harness. When I saw that, I said, my internal combustion team, when they source a wiring harness, they don't think about the battery as a cost. And so we have a prejudice. We won't spend extra money on wiring harness to lighten it. So we have to do different math. We need different skills. We need different, where our prejudice is too high. To catch up and beat BYD, we can't do it with cheaper batteries. We need an LFP battery in Michigan, which we have, so we can get similar battery costs. But to beat them, their product made in Mexico, we have to out-innovate them, which we have, and that vehicle will be coming out in a year and a half. 95% of the parts are quoted, and I'm really excited about that product launching. Metaphorically, that's what we have to do around the company. Here in Brazil, 40% of all of our cost engineering in the company, this is the first year we've taken $1 billion out of cost, 40% was done here in Brazil and Bahia. This team here is literally the best at Ford at taking cost out. And you can imagine thinking about how simple Salvador and Bahia is, giving advice to the engineers in Dearborn, saying this is how we need to get cost out of our company. That to me is beautiful.
But it's why you keep this innovation center here in Brazil, even after closing the factory here,
Yes.
right? So it's very important to keep these,
Yes.
brains here,
Yes.
thinking the company,
Yes.
even if you don't product the assemble the
Correct.
cars here anymore, right? So why you keep these professionals here?
Because they're world class, because
Yeah.
they're good and they're creative and they're hungry and they want to change Ford as Brazilians. They want to have an impact on the company. They take great pride in their work and they're very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Why shouldn't I do that? Why shouldn't I do that?
Perfect. And it helps the whole company, right? It helps
Of
the
course.
company globally, right?
Of course. It's so interesting that we bring this up because, our global vans are engineered in the UK, but we don't produce anything there. The same thing for Australia. The Ranger, which is absolutely mission critical for Latin America, is engineered in Australia, but we don't make any trucks in Australia anymore. This is something we found as a company, that just because we can't make locally doesn't mean the engineering team or the supply chain team isn't world class. They are world class. So why get rid of everyone when they're world class? We've learned this lesson 3 times.
Great. And are the Brazilian engineers different from others?
Yes.
There's something that we have and the others don't?
For sure.
What?
Better coffee.
Yeah,
No.
Definitely. Yeah. The best coffee in the world.
Seriously, I would say the creativity and the deep appreciation for the competitiveness of, in this case, the Chinese. I find the Brazilian engineers, after our restructuring, to be so laser focused on the competition and knowing what kind of fitness level we need to get at. That's why they're so valuable for us. They have the right cultural orientation competitively and benchmarking, and they have a creative spirit that you can't find in other places. We are, as a company, we are running into the Chinese here. It's not going to happen in America or even Europe. It's happening right here and in Thailand and in South Africa, and we have to stand our ground and make our unique brand bet on off-road and work. But the basic cost delivery of our industrial product has to be fully competitive with them. And this is where the fight is, right here.
You told me about probably one of the hardest decisions that I have to do.
Yes.
When you change all the business model here in Brazil.
Yes.
Closing the factory, right?
Yes.
So it was something that it was, very strong for us here in Brazil because everybody knows Ford around
Yes.
here, right?
Yes.
Even when we were little kids, we heard about the industry. I worked there inside the company, the factory when I was.
Thank you.
As soon as
Thank
I
you.
left the university,
Thank you.
I worked there for a little bit. I love this place, and for all Brazilians was a tough moment, right? But now, when we look today as a business model, everything, makes sense.
It does.
In terms of the numbers that we say, the Ford is profitable again here in Brazil,
Yes.
and the future
growing.
it looks
And
much
we're growing.
better, right?
Yes.
So, for the ones that complain a lot when you decided to close the factory, what could you say nowadays? Like, look, if you didn't do that time in the past, some years ago, what would happen to Ford in Brazil if we still have the company running nowadays?
There are so many examples in our industry of companies that used to be global that closed shop and went home. Some are in Detroit. I would say to those people, thank you. Because of your sacrifice, because of your hard work in the past, you gave us the rights to reinvent the company. And it's upon that foundation that we can build a new company. Without your hard work, and in some sense your sacrifice, we could not be the company we are now. But also please acknowledge that sometimes change comes in very awkward moments where you have to revolutionize the company's business model. And I feel as a leader, there is no worse day for me than we have to restructure a business, where we have to get real with the business model, that it's not competitive, that we don't have rights to win. And it's difficult because it impacts so many individual people. I can't imagine how much pride you had and also how much sadness you must have had when you read the news that Ford would not make here in Sao Paulo. But businesses are not social institutions. We have shareholders that expect us to do our jobs as leaders, and sometimes that requires us to restructure. As long as there's a brighter future, what I'm so impressed with is that our team did that with empathy and respect for all the team members. I've seen a lot of companies just restructure and do it in a brutal fashion without paying attention to people. We did it just the right way, I believe, as empathetic as we could with the respect that they deserve. And then we got busy building a better company. And now we have I would say, we're 2 or 3 minutes into a new match. We have 88 minutes to go, and we're starting to pass the ball down the field towards the goal of our competitors. And it feels fantastic, but but we can't forget the people who made the sacrifice.
Great. And what lessons did Ford learn from this experience, right? So is there something that you replied to other countries as soon as you rebuilt this business model here?
Yes, it wound up being a kind of global moment for us. We wound up using the same model in India and even in China. And I think because of that, we have a vibrant China export business and we have a vibrant business here. It's still growing. We still are, in the first 2 minutes of the match, but it seems very exciting again. I think what we learned is we have to have world-class product. When I was here, when I joined the company, EcoSport wound up being a very innovative product for the globe for Ford. But the second one was not as exciting or innovative. We tried to make it global. I think what we learned through that is that regional orientation is still very important. We can't get so in love with the global approach to the business that we lose the appreciation of the creativity and unique market demands here in Latin America, which we got away from. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, it's not one or the other. Ranger's been incredibly successful. We're now number 2 in the pickup market in the globe behind Hilux. I think we were 15th when I joined the company because we invested in a global Ranger made in Argentina. And that's been a global success. But when it comes to passenger car business, this is a unique place. And we learned that we have to rediscover our roots about paying attention to the local market, not just having always having a global solution. It wasn't the right direction. And I think for me as a leader, I do not like complacency. I learned that whenever you feel comfortable, you should be looking over your shoulder.
Something's happening besides you that you are not,
Correct.
looking properly, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What are you going to face in the future here in Brazil, and how big is Brazil for the company?
Well, I think, our success with Ranger is very encouraging to us. We now have an off-road brand. I remember how proud we all were with Troller, that it was a globally recognized, off-road icon. I hope that we can build the best off-road brand in Brazil. That when people think about going back to nature or driving for fun, whether it's Daniel Ricciardo or anyone, that they think of Ford as the most aspirational, best technology for going off-road and discovering nature. And on the other hand, I hope and expect here in Brazil that we have the best work vehicles and services surrounding the work vehicles, that anyone who does work with a vehicle would trust Ford, either with the vehicle or with the service, financing the vehicles or software for productivity or getting the vehicle maintained, that Ford would be a leader in both of those areas. And I think we have all the rights to do that. Mm-hmm. We now have the tools to do that. We just have to invest.
Great. What would you say to the people that still nowadays thinks that Ford left Brazil, which didn't happen, right? So we have some people say, okay, Ford is not here anymore. No, Ford is still here, but we just don't have the factory anymore, right?
Yes.
So what would you say to these people?
Go meet our Bahia engineers in Salvador. Yeah. Go meet our dealership team. Go meet the world-class people who are helping Ford face the Chinese globally, not just in Brazil. Mm-hmm. Please meet the Brazilians at Ford who are doing global work now. You will have no doubt, not only have we not left, but we're a thriving company. That doesn't ignore what we had to do, but I think if we do our jobs right, no one will ever question Ford being in Brazil again when they think of an off-road vehicle or work vehicle.
Perfect. When I talk about Brazil globally, we are talking about a huge country with a huge market, but it's not the richest country in the whole world, right?
Yes.
But when you rebuilt the business model, you decided not to make the popular cars, what we call here in Brazil anymore. Even in a country that is not that rich.
Yes.
But it worked.
It did.
Right?
Yes, it did.
The numbers say it to themselves, right? So it worked. Yes. Why that happened? Because I think it's a great lesson for all the companies that are here in Brazil. So it's not a rich country, so we have to produce just cheap products.
No.
And you show
Yeah.
that that's not true.
No, it isn't true. You know, Brazil is so diverse and it has so much to offer and has such a vibrant community that's diverse that you can find people who use vehicles for work and they're not cheap and cheerful vehicles. Of course, you could find those too. Mm-hmm. And I think Ford is naturally inclined to do those kinds of vehicles really well. I think for other companies, please don't think of Brazil as a monolith. It is not that kind of country. It's a country filled with opportunity, but you have to know what your brand should feel like, should represent, and then have a profitable approach to the business. And if you do that, I think Brazil is one of the most important countries in the world. I see it very different than India or lots of the other so-called BRIC countries. I don't think that term applies anymore to Brazil. I wouldn't be surprised if we sell a $400,000 US GTD here someday, or a $150,000 Raptor R, like Daniel is probably driving. I don't think that's out of the question. Ford's a strange brand in the sense that when people think of it, they think of an affordable vehicle like a Model T or a Ka or something. But we're also a strange company because we have no problem selling a supercar. And it's very unusual to have a brand that's flexible. So if you have a brand that's flexible, why don't you use it to your advantage? That's what we found in Brazil.
And we just have to look at the numbers of how many Mustangs you sell here. It's a
Yes,
lot, right? So
yes.
it's crazy, right?
I think we're outselling Porsche 911 some months.
Yeah.
Which I take particularly pride in.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot, right?
Yes,
So
yeah.
It's huge. And Porsche sells a lot here in Brazil as well.
They do.
It's a different market for
I'm
them.
on the board of Harley.
Yeah.
Brazil is one of the most important markets for Harley-Davidson.
So myself, I don't understand these numbers, you know?
Because Brazilians love cars. They love emotional objects like motorcycles and cars, and no surprise that Formula One is so popular here.
Yeah.
Yes, you have great drivers, amazing drivers, the best drivers, some would argue, but you have go-kart tracks and you have people who are passionate about motorsports. The WEC race at Interlagos, one of the best attended WEC races. I think you have a deep cultural connection with cars.
We have a section in our show that we call self-sabotage.
Okay.
Where we like to ask our guests if that happens with them, even if they are CEO of huge companies as yourself, Nowadays, in your position, does it happen to you sometimes? That little voice that says, no, it's not going to work. You're going to wake up this morning, it's not going to work. You have to give up. Does it happen to you sometimes?
Of course.
Really?
Any honest leader will say, because there are no guarantees. And as a CEO, the bets you make or not, that work or not play out over the course of many years. Mm-hmm. So it's only history, only in retrospect you could say that was a good decision or not. I mean, I don't have many regrets. The EV market changed a lot, and certainly if I had to do it over again, I would know a lot more. I would say but I think your question was more personal to me.
Yeah.
And I would say I come from the school of brutal honesty in the sense that I believe it's always worthwhile to give your competitors more credit than maybe they are due. And when I decided to drive a Xiaomi, Chinese car in Detroit, and talk about it, I think a lot of people were surprised. Why would a CEO of a car company as fantastic as Ford talk about a Chinese electric car? Why would they drive that? And to me, it was such an odd question because, of course, you would want me to drive that car. But, maybe I had some doubts about talking about it publicly. I think a lot of other leaders would. But I know my authentic self. I needed to send a message to all the employees at Ford. We have to take these people seriously. We can't ignore, like we did Tesla. We can't ignore Toyota. We can't ignore Hyundai Kia. But this one is existential for the company. You may not have ever heard about Xiaomi, but you now have. And I'm putting you on notice as a CEO that I expect you to do a better job than they're doing.
And this way you can be sure that if you have an employee driving a Ford car,
Yes.
it's because he really wants to drive a Ford car.
That's
not
right.
Because it's an obligation, right?
Correct.
That's the way you do it.
Yes.
It's a cultural process, right?
Yes.
And it's very
But
important.
did I have doubts? Because as a public figure promoting the brand, we should be the biggest brand ambassadors there are.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we're also a leader of people. And we're in this most glorious time of the car business where everything is changing.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to make the calculus, the pluses and minus. Should I talk about this? Or should I pretend it didn't happen and just talk to my direct leaders? And I decided to. Did I have self-doubt at that moment? Absolutely.
When you talk about this technology we are facing,
Yes.
we have to think about, I mean, myself, I love the V8 cars.
Good,
I
yeah.
love Mustangs, the
Yes.
huge engines,
Yes.
you know. Are we going to have space for these motors, for these huge blocks in the
Mm-hmm.
future? Or, you know, we are probably looking to the last Mustangs V8?
Not while I'm around.
Yeah.
Not while Bill Ford is around.
Thanks so much. I'm very happy to hear that.
I think, look, Ford is not like the other companies in a way. We do what we do because it's worked. And Mustang, other than 911, I mean, Mustang and 911 are kind of the two vehicles, the sports vehicles that have never changed. We're the best-selling sports coupe in the world. Porsche's been doing their thing for a long time. And, you know, we never left the market. Mm-hmm. And it would have been easy to. So I think the coupe, the Mustang coupe, 5-speed V8 is a kind of spiritual thing in the company. You could do a lot of design reviews, but if I took everyone watching us have this conversation in the design review for a Mustang coupe, you could hear a pin drop because we all know what's at stake. We all took road trips in these cars. We all have incredible hopes that this emotional product that's been in movies and music and affected all of our lives. I talked to the King of Spain. He said his favorite trip in a car was in a Mustang from LA to San Francisco when he graduated from law school. The King of Spain. The same thing would be true of my factory worker grandfather. No, I think as long as we don't make shampoo. We make Mustangs, we make Broncos, we make Rangers, we make F-150s, we make emotional products. And we will always be on the forefront of new technologies. Software-defined vehicles, new zone electric architectures, great electrification powertrains. But there are certain things that are fundamental to our identity as a company. And the Mustang V8 is one of them.
But probably we're going to have in the future some legal obligations
Sure.
about the electric vehicles,
Sure.
about the V8 big blocks and
Sure.
things like that. When this happens, you can't produce V8 blocks anymore.
Yes.
Probably it's gonna happen sometime, right?
Maybe. When that happens, maybe we will restore old ones for people.
Okay.
As a
Makes
business,
sense.
you know, may not be a big business, but I think it'll be important. And look, Mustang, we have the Mach-E Mustang now. It's an electric Mustang
Yeah.
SUV. The number 2 best-selling SUV, electric SUV in our country for many years. Mm-hmm. It's a Mustang.
Yeah.
0 to 60 in 3 or 4 seconds.
It's different.
Yeah, it's different.
It's
agree.
almost an SUV, right?
Yeah. But nothing stays the same.
Yeah.
And we are very excited about modernizing Bronco and Mustang and our pickup trucks. The F-150, the best-selling vehicle in the United States for 47 years. We have an electric one. Mm-hmm. We have a hybrid one. Mm-hmm. We have a gas one. And we'll probably have other powertrains in the next one. Mm-hmm. It's just, you know, we're always going to invest in the future. But it shouldn't change our DNA. When you get in a Mustang, even if it's electric, it better thrill you.
but the VH sound, it's different, right?
Yes, I agree. I agree. Yeah, no.
The sensation is completely different.
I'm not
right?
selling mine.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, let's talk about the pickups that
Sure.
you just said about. You just announced the hybrid Ranger.
Yes.
For our market, and
Yes.
it's something very new for us.
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
And the pickups market, it's completely different from other cars, right?
Yes,
so
it is.
do you think it's the way that you have to
For sure.
to take the hybrid pickups, maybe to like a bridge to go to the electric ones, or
Yes.
it's different when you talk about
Well,
pickups?
that's a great question. I think how we look at it is we look at people's duty cycle, how they use the vehicle. And each duty cycle requires a different electrification solution. If you travel really long distance, it's going to be many years before the charging electric infrastructure is there in a country like Brazil. It's getting better, but it's still difficult. An e-rev or a PHEV makes sense. You go all electric for maybe 50 or 75 or 100 miles. Then when you take a long trip, you have a combustion engine. You don't have to worry about it. And also for trucks, a lot of people tow. Electric is not good for towing. As soon as you put something behind you that's heavy, the electric batteries, they are not efficient for that.
Really, never had this experience.
No. So a PHEV is a much better solution for a truck. It's more flexible. It's the right solution. But just because it's a PHEV or a hybrid doesn't mean we can't innovate. We can make the PHEV really fun to drive because the torque is instantaneous with a PHEV. And so when people drive this new Ranger PHEV, I think they're going to be shocked. It'll be so much faster than they think.
Really?
Yeah, in a big heavy truck, you're like, wow, this is incredible.
It happens in Mustang Mach-E, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
It's very strong.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's
Same with
stronger than
Lightning.
the V8, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
for
Lightning,
sure.
the F-150
It's unbelievable.
Lightning,
I remember
right?
when the president drove the Lightning for the first time, he said, I've never been in a truck like this.
Yeah.
This sucker's quick.
It's unbelievable.
And I think the same thing for the PHEV. So I think you're going to see electrification going from like super efficient, like a Prius type solution, to much more diverse. We'll see performance versions. In the US, our hybrid F-150 has exportable power, which means you can power your house in the case the electricity goes out, or a job site for 6 days.
It's like a power plant, right?
Yes. And it's a mobile power plant. So this also opportunity happens when you go partially electric. I think that it's not necessarily a transition strategy. For some people it will be. For others, we'll just keep perfecting it because their duty cycle doesn't allow a pure electric to work.
Great. But Ranger is a very well-known pickup here in Brazil.
Yes.
It's a huge
Yes.
brand.
Yes.
Don't you feel afraid of, changing at something that it's so well-based?
I guess some people would, but not afford. We're not scared of electrifying a Mustang or putting an all-electric pickup truck, America's best-selling pickup truck.
Yeah.
We're not scared of PHEV and electrifying the Ranger. No, this is what we do. We always go forward. Always.
What can we expect for the next years
okay.
about cars? Because we have some cars in South America, like Ford Everest, for example, which is one of my favorites. I love it.
Yes.
And I mean, different kinds of technology.
Sure.
Can we expect new cars here in Brazil for the next year?
Yes.
Maybe. What can you tell us?
Well, I think the truth about our brand here is that you're just going to see a lot more choice in the off-road area. So, different sizes, different powertrains, different price points. You'll see more diversification of what we offer. The powertrains will start to change. They won't be just combustion or just a hybrid. There'll be other choices here in Brazil. I think you'll be excited about the choices, and that'll be the customer's choice. We won't force everyone to buy an electric or, just a combustion ethanol engine. I think also on the work side, you'll see more diversity of our commercial lineup. Today we do very well with Ranger and Transit, but now you'll start to see us offer more choice. And I think that choice will be in those areas. We'll also see interior experiences also get more diverse. On the low end, maybe more simple experiences. And on the high end or average Ford, you'll see a lot more technology coming. for customers here. I'm really excited, especially about that. And I hope that we offer more software. In the US, we're over 1 million units of software now. And I think the most exciting technology for Brazil will be automation. Hands off, eventually eyes off. We're not very focused on robotaxis. We'll partner with other people, but we're very focused on eyes off highway driving. So metaphorically, you push a button, the car drives for you on high speed on a highway, and you get time back. We think that's a bigger problem to unlock globally than a robotaxi in the middle of São Paulo.
For the next year, probably?
Coming
Coming soon.
In the next year, I think you will just see we have some really exciting products. The PHEV Rangers really are big news.
Okay,
here.
Great. And when we talk about the electric cars or even the PHEV cars, we have to talk about the Brazilian infrastructure,
yes,
which is
tough.
Small.
Yes.
We need to improve in this area, right? That's one of the reasons that myself, I don't want to have 100% electric car today, but I really want to get there, to go to other cities and to go to the roads without having the concern, like, am I able to charge my car, to get there? So do you think the companies have to maybe help the governments to improve this infrastructure, building, stations or things like that?
I don't think that's a core competency for us. In the very early days, I think what Tesla did with the supercharger network was great.
Yeah, it happens, right?
Yeah, and that's why Ford joined the supercharger network. We actually changed our plug technology to match theirs because they had so much better experience charging. I think there are independent companies that will build out that infrastructure. If I look to Norway, it's probably the best example of a country that's in the north, it's cold. They have 50% plus pure EVs now. And how does their infrastructure look? Well, a lot of fast charging at stores. So when you go shopping, you have downtime, you charge your vehicle. You go to work, you charge your vehicle in Norway. I think it's a kind of natural law. On the highway, it's difficult, I think. So we'll have to live in this mixed electrification world for a while, but I'm not worried about it. Over time, it will get better. Will it get good enough that you can own only one car? I don't see that in the near term.
Great. So how's Ford facing the hydrogen cells and the different fuels? How are you studying these new technologies and what do you think about them?
Well, I think it's a great question. I mean, there's no better country in the world to show about alternative fuels than what your country has done for our industry. I don't think anyone 20 years ago would have thought that we could be 100% ethanol in a country as big as Brazil, but we are. But it was a real commitment by the government. I think hydrogen is a great technology for heavier vehicles, over-the-road trucks, medium and heavy-duty trucks. It's a great technology. Electrification is not a great technology for very heavy vehicles because the batteries have to be so big that you have big batteries carrying your big batteries because the torque required to haul a heavy load or towing heavy things. I don't think pure electric in the next 10 years is going to be a good solution for heavy trucks or heavy pickups.
Because of the batteries, probably, right?
Yes.
Huge batteries.
Exactly.
Heavy,
it's too expensive for customers. So hydrogen is a very good solution. Similar to diesel, when diesel started, it was used by heavy trucks or farm, they would have their own infrastructure. They had their own tank on the farm or their own tank in a truck stop. I wouldn't be surprised over the next couple decades we start to have hydrogen infrastructure. But I will say we have the ICE infrastructure for gasoline or ethanol for all these years. Building out an electrical infrastructure is really expensive and hard. Coming up with a third infrastructure is going to be maybe a bridge too far. So it would have to be a specialty distribution of the infrastructure for hydrogen to work. But if you're a utility company, your vehicles come back to the same depot every night, you have heavy vehicles, bucket trucks repairing transmission lines, that's a perfect application for hydrogen. I think you'll see specialty applications for hydrogen fuel cell or even a hydrogen combustion engine for those kind of applications. And I think, Ford, like we always have, will continue to invest in that. But, you know, frankly, hydrogen has been the future in my industry for 30 years. Mm-hmm. We've been talking about it for 30 years being the future.
Great. Well, we have another section here in our show, and we call uncomplicated business. You know, it's something that we do in partnership with our sponsor, which is New Empresas, when we talk about technology on companies, you know. So what would you say to the entrepreneurships that follow us, and in terms of technology, you know, what they have to do in terms of AI or something that nowadays, you have to think about when you talk about technologies and business, especially small business? What could you say to these people?
Well, you know, the car business, we tend to think of our retail customers as the most important. I think at Ford, I would challenge that thinking. When you're an entrepreneur with AI technology, think about a business customer as the fastest adopter of new technology. It's interesting, when we talk about software-defined vehicles, which segment, level 2 automation, hands-free driving on the highway, or productivity software where I can control the speed of the vehicle or even the access on the weekend, which software winds up being adopted faster, the B2B customer or the B2C customer? Winds up being the B2B customer. They use their vehicle for work. If they have software to use that asset better, they're going to buy more software than the retail customer who uses their vehicle maybe 5 to 10%. I think that's a metaphor for entrepreneurs. When you think about your technology and your business idea, why don't you think about business customers first, not consumers, but business customers. They use technology as a tool. They're more likely to pay more and adopt it quicker than a retail customer.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, thanks a lot for having us. It was amazing talking to you and understand everything is happening inside your company, you know, and the whole industry. It was a great pleasure. And congratulations on what you're doing in Ford.
Thank you so much for your time. I love your show. And thank you for your advocacy for Mustang.
Great. We're both fans of it, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you so much, Jim. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you.
E obrigado também você que acompanhou a gente em mais esse episódio super especial de No Lucro CNN, a primeira vez fora do estúdio, conversando com o CEO global da Ford, Jim Farley. Não deixa de seguir a gente nas redes sociais, @No Lucro CNN, me segue lá também, @Felipe.Ciani. Um beijo, até semana que vem, que você sabe que aqui com a gente, você está sempre no lucro. Valeu, gente.